Here we go again with another Commish Chronicle. This time we are heading into the second round, the semifinal of the playoffs. And wow, what a playoffs it's been so far. Let's dive right in to all of it. Friendly reminder that those are the indications for best head-to-head, best total, and both head-to-head and total indicated by 3 stars when looking at these. Before we get to the semifinal, we have to look at the first round, and it is the year of the upsets. HFXHL history was made this year, where every single lower seeded team beat a higher ranked team in the first round. Absolutely incredible stuff. Starting off, Thunder Down Under, the number 5 seed, a very tight 7-5 victory versus number 4 Gritsky's All-Stars. This is the first time the Gritsky's All-Stars has lost in the first or second round of the playoffs. They've made the final every single year. This year, ousted by a team who is in the playoffs for their first time ever. How close was this matchup? Well, Thunder Down Under won a few categories extremely tight, none tighter than shots on goal, where they literally won by 2 shots, and save percentage, winning 901 to 899. We're talking the difference in 1 or 2, maybe 3 saves, likely being the difference. Gritsky beat. Each team, interestingly, beat each other in their league best categories. Gritsky's All-Stars Gritsky's All-Stars was in goals, and Thunder had wins in the regular season. They swapped those for this particular matchup. Moving on, though, number 6, Messier Guarantee, our champion from last year, also won a very, very tight matchup right down to the very end. 6-4 versus number 3 Bettman Returns. Again, 2 very, very close stats. Messier Guarantee 1 goals, 18-17. Extremely close. And they tied in power play points, 16-16. Bettman Returns ties in goals and gets 1 extra power play point. They would have won that week. Just so close how this turned out, right down to the lake. Moving on, number 7, Mr. Beninja Express, for the second year in a row, defeats the number 2 seeded Return of Captain Thick Nick by an emphatic score of 10-2, but it was quite tight until the late games on Sunday. Return of Captain Thick Nick still did have a chance to reel in some categories and pull off a 6-6 tie, which they would have held the tiebreaker for. That being said, Mr. Beninja Express, really the key things here is that they won 3 out of 4 of Thick Nick's league best categories in assists, points, and power play. The very key part of it, while also winning their personal 3 league best categories in hits, blocks, and shutouts. So put those 2 things together, and that spells a win for Mr. Beninja Express. Interestingly, looking back at the history of playoffs so far in the HFXHL, no team had actually put up a 10-win week in any of the playoff rounds. So that is a new record set for Mr. Beninja Express. And of course, last but absolutely certainly not least, we have the number 8 seeded, the Replacements, beating Curiosity Killed to Brinkat 7-2. This is, and I looked this up to double check, Curiosity Killed to Brinkat had statistically the best regular season in HFXHL history, and the Replacements were actually the worst regular season team to still make the playoffs. So, historically speaking, the best team so far in HFXHL history versus the worst team to make playoffs in HFXHL history, and the replacements pull off what is undoubtedly the biggest upset in our history so far, and it's going to be very, very tough to top this one. That being said, the score doesn't tell the whole story. 7-2. It was tight until late Sunday. Curiosity Killed Braincat, unfortunately, was betrayed by the goalie stats. The replacements went 3-0-1 in Curiosity Killed Braincat's league best categories, which were power play points, wins, goals against average, save percentage. Just an incredible week for the replacements, and significant disappointment, obviously, for Curiosity Killed Braincat. But that's enough of that. First round is done. We move on to the semifinals. Let's look at the first matchup. Is the number 5 seed Thunder Down Under versus the big upset team, number 8 seeded the replacement. And the biggest story of these two teams, it is the 11th and 12th seeds from last year advancing to the semis ever playoffs. Of course, Thunder Down Under, they were last place in last year's season, jumping all the way up the standings to 5th. The replacements were 11th last year, sneaking into a playoff spot in 8th, obviously putting off that big first round upset. Despite tying their matchups 1-1, Thunder Down Under did win their season series overall by a score of 14-7-3. Thunder Down Under has also won their last 3 weeks, which was capped, or it started, I should say, by an emphatic 9-1 victory over the replacements in week 21, which almost caused the replacements to miss out on the playoffs altogether. Ultimately, there's not much more to say for the replacements other than that they just need to ride the wave after this massive upset from the first round. It is worth noting, again, just to put a bow on how good the replacements was last. Had they met last week, the replacements would have won their matchup between these two teams 6-3. So, anything can happen in these playoffs, clearly. So just because the regular season success wasn't as great, just make playoffs and see what happens. History watch. The number 5 seed and the number 8 seed are now both 3-1 in the first round. This league so far in the playoffs is a league of the lower seeds making first round upset. And we'll see more of that next slide. 2 slides, I should. The number 5 seed, however, historically, their best finish has been second place. Whereas the number 8 seed, despite making it through the first round 2 different times in the past, their best finish has been losing in the semifinals and then in the third place game for a best finish of 4th. Now, based on the stats, the expected win would go to Thunder Down Under by a score of 8-4. But let's see what I think. Prediction. It's going to be Thunder Down Under winning 7-4 over the replacements. I just think consistency is going to play a factor here. The replacements had an extremely big week. I'm ready to be proven wrong by this extreme underdog. But Thunder Down Under goes from underdog to top seed in these playoffs. And I think they're going to ride it in their first playoff all the way to the final. See what happens. As we move on to the other semifinal. And it is a rematch once again in the semifinals of Mr. Ninja Express versus Messi Guarantee. It's the second year in a row. Last year, Messi Guarantee, as the number 1 seed, defeated Mr. Ninja Express, who was also the number 7 seed last year, by a score of 6-4. It was extremely tight in that matchup. Fun stats: Mr. Ninja Express now 3-0 in the first round. However, they are 0-2 the second round. Ninja Express has never made a final. They've won the third place game the last 2 years running. However, have not been able to get a win in the semifinal, losing 6-5 in 2021 and 6-4 in 2022. looking to slay their demons here. They already had one rematch in the first round. They play Messier Guarantee again. See what they can do. Of course, Messier Guarantee, last year's champion. They had their number 1 seed last year, rode it all the way to the championship, an absolutely dominant seed for them. Much different story this year. They pull off the first round upset over a Bettman Returns team that was struggling going into playoffs. Now Messier Guarantee, it's an opportunity to get back to the final once again as what could easily be argued the now favorite in these playoffs given their past success. That being said, Mr. Ninja Express for the season series won it. They had 1 win and a tie in a very narrow fashion by total score of 12-10-2. So despite holding the tiebreaker for Mr. Ninja Express, this matchup all season was extremely tight throughout. Mr. Ninja Express is on the best streak of their season and the best streak of any team currently left in the playoffs, having won their last 4 weeks in a row heading into the semifinal. Messier Guarantee, we're on a 2-week losing skid heading to the playoffs, but they ended that last week with that win. Bettman Returns. Worth noting, another key to how dominant Mr. Ninja Express's week was last week. Had they met last week, Mr. Ninja Express would have won their matchup 9-2. Very emphatically would have won that. See what happens for this one. Going back again, history watch. The number 7 seed has never made the final, but they are now 2-2 in the first round. Both of those wins as the number 7 seed going to Mr. Ninja Express. And their best finish was last year, Mr. Ninja third. The number 6 seed is also now has a winning record of 3-1 in the first round. However, their best ever finish is second. So, just worth noting that no teams based on seeding left, number 5 through 8, have ever actually won championship. Only the number 5 and 6 seeds actually made a final. Last thing worth noting is, again, if you've noticed here, the lower seeds thus far, 4 seasons into HFXHL, have a winning overall record versus the higher seeds. It's so interesting and crazy to think about. But seeds 5 through 8 have historically a better first round record versus the top seeds in the playoffs. Absolutely. Expected is 7-5, Messier Guarantee based on the stats. But what does this extremely unbiased commissioner predict is going to happen? I think Mr. Ninja Express is going to slay their demons. They're going to have a 5-5 tie like they did early in the season, but they're going to win based on the tiebreaker. We will see what happens. Until then, good luck. Have fun. Yeah. Final round of the play.